Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy. Wakanda Forever is a beautiful movie, and it's a really powerful farewell to Chadwick Boseman. So in this video, we're going to break down the ending and the mid-credits scene and talk about everything it's going to set up. So the ending sets up a Black Panther 3 that is going to be Wakanda versus the rest of the world that may kick off as soon as Phase 5 with the movie The Thunderbolts. So we're going to tell you how that's going to happen, explain who's ruling Wakanda now, we're going to explain everything about T'Challa's son and what this might mean for the future. But first, let's start with that touching mid-credits scene. At the end of the movie, Shuri travels to Nakia's home in Haiti, where she's finally able to burn her funeral clothes, a ceremony that allows her to say goodbye to her brother, signaling that she's ready to move on from her grief and feelings of guilt. Now this emotional scene closes the movie, but then it leads to Wakanda Forever's credits scene. After Shuri performs the ceremony, she's approached by Nakia and her son that she's had with T'Challa, who is also named Prince T'Challa.
The son becomes the father, and the father becomes the son.
Just when she thought that she had no family left, Nakia appears with T'Challa's son. This reveal is such an emotionally gratifying conclusion for a very powerful human story. Her meeting her nephew at the end of the movie shows her that she doesn't need to wallow in the grief of the past. She can now have optimism for the future. Now Nakia raised Prince T'Challa in Haiti, far away from Wakanda. She kept his existence a secret from everyone except for Queen Ramonda. Judging by the child's age, he was likely born shortly before or after the snap around 2018. That means he's about 5 or 6 years old. Now real quick, before we explain why the kid was kept a secret, we have to mention that T'Challa did have a son in the comics, and his name was Azari. But Azari's mother was not Nakia, it's Aurora Monroe, aka Storm from the X-Men. She and T'Challa had a really complicated relationship in the comics. Now, Azari does not exist in the comic book universe 616. That's the main universe in the comics. He actually comes from an alternate post-apocalyptic world where he's part of the next Avengers, a team of the children of the Avengers. Ultron destroys the world, they fight him. It's a great story, you should check it out. But clearly, the MCU is going to go in a different direction.
Hey, what's that guy doing?
What do you mean?
He's just staring at me.
I don't know, man. He's looking for a movie.
I'm not a movie.
Oh, sorry, was I staring? I'm jealous of the manager's thick, lustrous hair. You see, I'm going bald.
What? Is that all? Come on, that's nothing to worry about. The best time to prevent hair loss is to start when you still have hair left. And that is why I use Keeps. They're the sponsor of this video. There's actually a history of hair loss in my family, so when my hair started to thin, I did not waste any time. Now, treatments can take up to 4 to 6 months or more to see results, so it is important that you act fast, and you have to start early and stick with it. So believe me, guys, if your hair's starting to thin, do not put this off. Start using Keeps now. The sooner you start using Keeps, the more hair you'll save. Why, it's even proven to work on a puppet's scalp. Now massage that in a little bit.
You got it.
Keeps stopped my hair loss right in its tracks, and they have more 5-star reviews than any of their competitors, and that is why hundreds of thousands of men trust Keeps for their hair loss prevention medication. So guys, if you notice you're losing your hair, don't ignore it or hope it goes away. Do something about it. For a limited time, go to keeps.com/screencrush or click the link in the description to get 50% off your first order. Now back to what I was saying.
So why would Nakia keep T'Challa Jr. a secret all this time?
Well, T'Challa and Nakia agreed that it would be better to raise their son in Haiti away from the pressure of the throne, at least until he's ready to assume the responsibilities of king and protector of Wakanda.
One day, Simba, the sun will set on my time here and will rise with you as the new king.
T'Challa was raised in Wakanda all of his life, the heir to the throne since birth, and that experience shaped who he was. Nakia said that it was T'Challa's choice for her to not come to his funeral because it wasn't time to yet reveal young T'Challa. This must be because T'Challa wanted his son to get a different chance at life, to forge his own path, and once he does assume the throne, he can be a better king than any who came before him, because he will grow up outside of Wakanda and be able to understand the entire world better, and one day be a bridge between the Wakandans and the rest of the globe.
More connects us than separates us. But in times of crisis, the wise build bridges, while the foolish build barriers.
Remember, young T'Challa was born slightly after his father fought Killmonger, and this must have shaped T'Challa's decision. T'Challa realized that Wakanda could no longer stay closed off from the rest of the world. He saw that that was his father's mistake. Also, Wakanda was in a state of chaos during this time. The nation was just recovering from Killmonger's mini-civil war, and shortly after, Thanos happened. Both T'Challa and Shuri were gone, along with half of the life in the universe. Losing both the king and the princess at such a difficult time meant that Wakanda would have been in a state of political turmoil. Now, if Nakia would have revealed T'Challa's son to Wakanda after the snap, it might have given the nation the hope that they so desperately needed at that time. But this would also immediately put the young boy right at the center of everything, with the people of Wakanda seeing him as their future king. But the prince was barely a baby at the time, and T'Challa's wish was for him to be away from it all until he was ready. I mean, think about it. If T'Challa would have died with his son at royal court, then all this pressure would have suddenly been on his son, the boy king. It would have destabilized Wakanda and turned this kid into another Joffrey.
I am the king!
T'Challa passed away just a few months after Endgame, but it's obvious that he spent his last days being a true king and protector, bringing order and stability to Wakanda. But at least Shuri finally knows that she has a nephew, though Shuri's going to respect her brother's wishes and keep his son a secret.
So what's next for T'Challa's son?
Well, I'm sure that many fans are now going to see T'Challa as the next Black Panther, but let's take it easy. First of all, the kid's really young, unless somebody throws him into Hulk's time machine.
It's baby.
It's Scott.
As a baby.
He'll grow.
It's going to be a while before he can don the Black Panther suit, but there's another way to age him up quickly. Could send him to space, like his alternate universe father. Prince T'Challa could travel the stars, and thanks to time dilation, he could arrive home much older than he was when he left.
Gravity on that planet will slow our clock compared to Earth's drastically.
Every hour we spend on that planet will be 7 years back on Earth.
But I don't think he'll take over for a while. After all, Shuri just became the new Black Panther, so she'll have the title for the foreseeable future. But it's only a matter of time before this secret is revealed to the world. That's what secrets are for. They have a tendency to be unveiled with the worst timing.
Monica and Chandler are living together!
Ross married Rachel in Vegas and got divorced! Again!
Wakanda just barely survived a war with Namor and Talokan, and it's only a matter of time until Wakanda enters some kind of conflict with the rest of the world. Governments around the world are trying to get their hands on vibranium. The CIA just proved that they're willing to risk a war with Wakanda for this most precious resource on Earth. And now it's revealed that Wakanda is not even the only place on Earth that has this precious metal. Right now, no one else knows about Talokan, but it's only a matter of time. Remember, the United States is tired of not being the most powerful military in the world anymore, so the president is laying out a plan to destabilize Wakanda. Once the advanced nation is weak enough, government agencies can swoop in and take all the vibranium for themselves. Just in general, the governments are taking actions against superheroes, and things are about to get really dark. Now that the Sokovia Accords are no longer in effect, the government needs a weapon that can give them an edge against superpowered people. Vibranium is that weapon. Once the government gets their hands on vibranium, they become a global superpower.
Your weapons.
Our weapons will not be used to wage war on the world.
But the only way they can remain a superpower is to ensure that no one else has vibranium, meaning that Wakanda cannot have more vibranium than the US. And that is where Val and the Thunderbolts come in. Val is in charge of the CIA, and also she's Everett Ross's ex-wife. Did not see that coming. So that makes Val sort of the MCU's Amanda Waller. She's going to assemble her own Suicide Squad, and that is the Thunderbolts. Val will use the Thunderbolts to go on some covert mission to attack Wakanda, an attack that will weaken the nation and pave the way for an all-out war against them. Most members of the Thunderbolts aren't bad people, but remember, Val has a track record of manipulating people to go after heroes. Val used Yelena's grief to go after Hawkeye, and she has John Walker wrapped around her little finger.
Things are about to get weird, so when they do, we're not gonna need a Captain America. We're gonna need a US agent.
Bucky is also on the team, and he has a friendly history with Wakanda.
Little time in Wakanda and you come out White Panther.
It's actually White Wolf.
He almost lost his White Wolf privilege though after he broke Zemo out of prison, and he even protected him from Io and the rest of the Dora Milaje. But eventually, he got back on Io's good side, and Shuri seems to be cool with Bucky. And that's what Val is hoping to exploit. She will use Bucky as a Trojan horse without him even knowing it. Val had Ross arrested, but Okoye freed him, and now he's living in Wakanda. He's going to tell Shuri about what Val might be planning. So Wakanda will be ready for an attack from the rest of the world. But that might be all part of Val's plan.
It's a trap!
Wakanda is too strong on their home turf, so the best way to defeat them is to manipulate Wakanda to attack first. And then the US and the UN will have the legal right to fight back, and then conquer the nation in the name of freedom, and then steal all their resources, all for the sake of global protection. Totally fictional. Stuff like that never happens in the real world. Here's how this can happen. Harrison Ford is the MCU's new Thunderbolt Ross, and he's totally going to become the Red Hulk. Ross hates superheroes, and once he becomes an unstoppable rage monster, he's going to unleash hell's fury on the Avengers. Ross and Val are most likely working together, so the plan would be for Red Hulk to attack Wakanda's borders, and then Val will send the Thunderbolts to stop him. That leads to an international incident. Shuri will have no choice but to see this as an outside attack, and she will have to make a move against the world. And that is the first shot the government needs to unleash a war. Now the ace in the hole here is Bucky and the Thunderbolts being allowed to enter Wakanda, and then somehow the Thunderbolts will lower Wakanda's defenses from the inside. Remember, at least 3 members of this team were under mind control at some point or another. One of them is just one bad day away from becoming a psycho villain, and one of them is an idiot.
I gave my life for a cause. I thought I was being brave.
You don't have earpiece.
What?
No, she can't hear you. You don't have earpiece.
Why not?
Val probably chose these guys to be part of the team for a reason. But the thing is that both nations might deal with threats from within. Shuri and Namor might have brokered a peace, and they might have made an oath to uphold it, but not everyone might share this shaky truce. Namor's cousin, Namora, is not thrilled with the way things resolved with Wakanda. And there's also Atuma, who's one of Namor's main villains in the comics, so he might attempt a rebellion against Namor, calling him too weak to protect Talokan against the world. Shuri might face similar insurrections. Namor flooded Wakanda. This led to Ramona's death. It's unclear if anyone else died during the attack, but considering the scale of it, I bet more than a few people died here. That is a lot for the Wakandans to forgive and forget, so some of them might demand blood for blood. Really hope Marvel brings back Daniel Kaluuya as W'Kabi for a 3rd film. He could be the one who leads a rebellion against Shuri. See, people like Val can stir the pot and cite the extremists on both sides, causing civil wars that will weaken the nations and open the door wide open for outsiders to attack. So now we need to clarify who exactly rules Wakanda at this point. In the comics, Shuri does become queen, but I think they've gone a different way in the MCU. Now keep in mind that T'Challa became the Black Panther while his father was still king, meaning that the roles of Black Panther and king can be filled by 2 different people. Don't forget, T'Challa had to complete the ritual combat ceremony to officially become the king of Wakanda, but Shuri doesn't attend this ceremony. In fact, she chooses not to. I think that's because at this point, she knows that she is not ready to rule. At the end of the movie, M'Baku says that he will challenge Shuri for the throne, but I'm pretty sure that was made as a joke. M'Baku was such a level-headed advisor to her during the film that she trusts him to be a steward of the nation until she is ready. So if he becomes king, she'll be free to carry on her brother's legacy as Black Panther and ruling another day. But this does present us with an interesting setup for Black Panther 3. Shuri now feels pressure to protect her nephew. This might cause her to avoid a war. Maybe M'Baku and Shuri disagree on whatever challenge the nation faces, and this causes a political schism that the US government exploits. He didn't want Wakanda to go to war with Namor.
Killing him will risk eternal war.
But he could have a different perspective on a war with the US government. And it would be really bad timing if Wakanda discovered T'Challa's son during this crisis. Some of the Wakandans are going to demand that he be made king, and use him to weaken Shuri's claim. Also, I wouldn't put it past Val or Red Hulk to kidnap young T'Challa and use him as a bargaining chip against Shuri. This is exactly why T'Challa's son needs to be raised outside of Wakanda, not only for his safety, but also so he can one day be the bridge between Wakanda and the rest of the world. So for now, it'll be up to Shuri and her closest allies to protect Wakanda and hopefully find a peaceful solution. And speaking of allies and wars, now it's time to talk about how Namor fits into all of this.
My people call me Akukungkan, but my enemies call me Namor.
For Namor, a war with the surface world is not an if, it's only a matter of when. And he's ready to unleash Talokan's full power and fury on the world. Namor already had a grudge against the surface world. After all, they killed his mother. And he knows that the world won't let Wakanda keep their vibranium. That's why he was willing to kill Riri to keep Talokan's existence a secret. Namor swore an oath to stand with Wakanda whenever they needed him. Once Wakanda's attacked, Namor will stand with Shuri and fight, because that was all part of his plan. But let's not forget that in the comics, Namor is a very reactionary guy. Once he sees the world coming for Wakanda, he will have to make his own plans to protect Talokan, because they're going to be the government's next stop. Namor and his people are extremely powerful, but they do have huge weaknesses. They can't breathe air, they have to wear special masks outside of the water, and Namor himself cannot remain on the surface for too long.
Do you have any water? I gotta hydrate.
The government might use this weakness as a weapon, and they are not as technologically advanced as Wakanda. Now this will cause Namor to take some drastic actions, maybe even work with some bad people that will give Talokan an edge when the battles begin. One of those people could be Dr. Doom. Now that's something for another video that we're going to have coming up in just a few days. And are we really certain that Namor will keep his word once the war begins? What if he doesn't agree with Shuri's decisions? Like, what if he thinks that she's not willing to do what's necessary? What if her actions put his people at danger? And Namor himself is said to be as strong as the Hulk. Based on his power in the movie, that's not an exaggeration. Namor is seriously powerful, and that makes him a great ally, but also a huge threat. All of this might drive Namor to do things that Shuri would be morally against, putting her at odds with the one they call the Feather Serpent God.
If you're not with me, then you're my enemy.
But Shuri might have a weapon that she's not even aware of yet, but it could change everything. When consuming the heart-shaped herb, Shuri was transported to the astral plane, same as T'Challa and every other Black Panther. When Shuri was in the astral plane, she saw Killmonger because he was driven by grief and rage, just like she was. This is also why Killmonger saw his father instead of his ancestors. Killmonger shows her the dark side of herself and tells her that to be a strong queen, she needs to be like him. But what's important here is that Shuri has to open herself up to the spiritual side of being Black Panther. I mean, she begins the movie praying to Bast, saying she doesn't really believe in the goddess. But now she has seen that the ancestral plane is real. In the comics, there is a point where T'Challa learns how to control death with the power of the Black Panther. He can pretty much raise the dead and lead an army of zombies. Now, this power extends to abilities such as cosmic awareness that allowed him to be aware of what's happening in the multiverse. And because she is a woman of science, maybe she'll find a way to explore the ancestral plane. She could discover similar abilities. So Shuri might go all Aragorn and unleash an army of the dead to end the war on Wakanda.
So when's all this gonna happen?
Well, the Thunderbolts are in Phase 5. That'll be the start of it. But the actual war will likely go down in Phase 6. I think what's going to end the war is everybody's going to realize the multiverse is about to collapse and Kang is the real threat they need to unite against. But by then, it'll be too late. And after whatever goes down in Secret Wars, Marvel might age up T'Challa's son, and by Phase 7, he will be the new Black Panther. Also, with the multiverse situation, we can always see an older version of young T'Challa. Universes are going to collide after all, so anything is possible. So, Wakanda Forever was a great movie, and it opens up so many possibilities for the future, and we will be exploring many of them in the coming days. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything, and let me know your thoughts on all this down in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, guys, subscribe and ring that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.